Member for Richmond Park, particularly I agree very much with what he was saying about deforestation. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, my starting point really is that climate change is not some kind of future threat. Climate change is here and now. Right. The climate has changed, and that is the reality that we have to confront. In the UK this week, records have again been broken, and several honourable members have already raised the issue of, just on Tuesday, temperatures reaching 21 degrees Celsius in London, the hottest February day in Britain on record. And the records keep breaking, not just in the UK, but right across the world. In January of 2019, Australia, that was the hottest month ever. Prolonged droughts worsened California's destructive wildfires last year. 9 of the 10 hottest years on record have occurred since 2005. So, to be clear, this is not normal. The implications of these seismic changes for the future of life on Earth and human civilization are profound. Yet, even after all of the international conferences and all of the international pledges on climate action, the Earth is still set to warm by 3 or 4 degrees. And in that scenario, huge swathes of the Earth would be rendered uninhabitable, whilst extreme weather would ravage whole countries. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, time is quickly running out to limit warming, even to the still dangerous 1.5 or 2 degree aspirations of the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. We face a climate emergency, and we must choose now how we respond. And above all, I believe it calls for unprecedented boldness and vision, and a new way of thinking to find a new way forward. And I do have to say that I think here at home the government's response to the climate crisis has been nowhere near ambitious enough. Since 2010, almost every existing sensible climate measure has been torched. Zero-carbon homes scrapped, onshore wind effectively banned, solar power shafted, the Green Investment Bank flogged off, fracking forced on local communities. And on the opposition benches, while many honourable members grasp the severity of this situation, the policies proposed by some of their parties simply aren't good enough either. It is not possible to tackle the climate crisis and expand airports or build new runways. We cannot be tackling climate change while ploughing billions of pounds into North Sea oil and gas. We can't tackle the climate crisis while chucking billions into new roads. And we can't tackle the climate crisis whilst our economy is built on the assumption that precious minerals, fresh air, clean water can magically regenerate themselves in an instant, that somehow the Earth will expand to meet our ever-expanding use of resources. The IPCC says that we need to cut emissions to net zero by the middle of the century, but during that very same period, the global economy is set to nearly triple in size. So let's be clear that that means 3 times more production and consumption than we are already doing each year. It will be hard enough to decarbonise the existing global economy in such a time span. It's virtually impossible to do it 3 times over. So that is why, Madam Deputy Speaker, we need new thinking, and that is why I am calling in this country for a Green New Deal, not to be mistaken with the Green Deal, which is a very different British failed policy. I'm really proud to have been associated as a co-founder of the first Green New Deal group here in the UK 10 years ago. And it's now getting real momentum from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the US. It takes its inspiration from Roosevelt's New Deal in the 1930s, which saw a massive investment in jobs and infrastructure in order to pull the US out of the Depression. What we need now is a similar massive investment, not in infrastructure per se, but in green technology and green infrastructure. That means a complete and rapid decarbonisation of our whole economy on a much faster scale than our current national climate framework dictates. It means a huge programme of investment in clean energy, creating hundreds of thousands of well-paid jobs. It means transforming huge areas of our country and allowing those proud communities that have been hollowed out through deindustrialisation and austerity to regenerate and thrive as they join a collective endeavour to protect the planet. And to that extent, it might just be a way of bringing our country back together after all of the divisions and polarisation of Brexit.
Will she give way?
I will give way.
I thank the honourable lady for giving way. Congratulate her on securing this very important debate. In Scotland, of course, the Scottish National Party and the Green Party in the Scottish Parliament have been able to work together, and everything is not perfect. I'm not saying it is, but does she welcome that cross-party collaboration to try to drive forward sometimes quite difficult decisions, but which will help to reduce carbon emissions and tackle climate change?
I'm grateful to for his contribution. He's absolutely right. Cross-party collaboration has to be central. I would say that the less that we depend on fossil fuels, the better it will be, but I appreciate that that is something that we're all trying to do, and it's incredibly important that we do, because This is so urgent, and that's why that alarm call that young people gave us in those climate strikes a week or so ago was just so important. They know that in this moment of political paralysis and morally unforgivable inaction on climate, it's only going to be something really big that shifts our politics in a new direction, that attempts something new. I'm really proud that across the country we now have over 25 local authorities who have declared a climate emergency, and now schools and universities are doing the same thing. I think Parliament here as well must also declare a climate emergency. These are extraordinary times and they call for extraordinary measures. And a climate emergency would mean it wouldn't be another 2 years before we have a debate like this in the Chamber. It would mean that we perhaps have a cross-cutting select committee on climate breakdown, and we make sure that climate change is part of every inquiry that members undertake. It would mean that every new law must be climate-proofed. It would mean redefining and reshaping the debate on climate change. Because we've made some progress, but I hear the government saying what wonderful progress that they've made. But actually, if you take into account our consumption emissions, in other words, the emissions linked to all of the products that we consume because we've outsourced manufacturing, then actually our progress looks an awful lot less. Deliver on the future for those young people.
Vicky Ford.
Thank you, Madam